All right, over the last 2 years, I've had multiple comments basically asking me to do a video on a beginner guide to bass fishing, and today that is exactly what we're gonna do. Budget for today, $100. I feel like $100 is about the amount that the average person would say, I'm not gonna buy anything more than $100. So if you're not into bass fishing, the problem is there's more than just one thing you gotta buy. You've gotta buy rods and reels, you've gotta buy lures, you've gotta buy line, you've gotta buy license, you gotta buy, there's so many different things. It's just really hard for $100 to be your budget, but I feel like that's what everybody would say. So we're gonna take a $100 budget and we're gonna completely assemble what we would need to go catch our first bass. And if you've never caught a bass, I hope that you go try it. I think that everybody should fish. Fishing is good for the soul, and it's also good for excuses on why you gotta get out of the house for an hour. All right, so in my opinion, for somebody who's never done it, this is your first time going and buying what you need, I say $50 for your combo, for your rod and reel. You can do this one of two ways. You can either get a spinning rod and reel, or you can get a Zebco 33, which is what most everybody starts with, is a Zebco. But I feel like if you're going for a bass, if you know you're bass fishing, I think that the Lose brand is what you need to stick with. And this right here is 50 bucks. This is the Lose Speed Stick Classic. This is a 6/8 rod, power medium. This is perfect for bass fishing. Yeah, Lose isn't paying me $1 to tell you that. I just feel like Lose is a pretty good brand for the beginner. I hope they don't take offense to that. Sorry about it. All right, so now that I picked out my rod, there is one thing that I feel like for a beginner, this is what you need. So I was walking down the aisle thinking, you know, you gotta have a Senko, you gotta have some other kind of worm, you gotta have your hooks, you know, there's a bunch of different things you need. But for this kit right here, for like 13 bucks, it comes with everything that you need. I think that's a pretty good little buy for somebody who hasn't done it, but they wanna go out for the first time and see how they like bass fishing. Honestly, I think with this and that rod and reel right there, you could get it done with just those two items, but I still think you need, I'm just gonna say 2 baits other than what's in that box, because that box is going to be like worms, lizards, trick worms such as that. I think you need a crankbait, and I don't 100% think that you need to have the yellow. I think a really good crankbait that's not going to break the bank right off, a good mid-range, would be these KVD crankbaits. Don't let all the lures intimidate you. Just pick one. This right here is a 1.0. They've got a 2.0 and a 2.5. Basically, you got small ones and you got big ones. Which one do you want? You want a smaller one or a big one? I would go with either a mid-range or a small one, which is what I have right here. I also think that you need a chatterbait. Now this right here is gonna be 6 bucks, just say. And our crankbait was also $6, so $12. Another thing I like about this box, the lures that I just picked out, we're gonna be able to put inside of the box. So you kind of got your own tackle tray. And then you don't have to worry about buying a tackle box, because you really don't know if you're gonna like it or not anyway. So keep it dumbed down, keep it cheap, and you're gonna feel better about yourself after you catch your first bass. You're also probably gonna come back in and spend another $100. It's kind of addicting. So our kit right here, it comes with hooks, but it doesn't come with weights. I know I need to grab weights and line for our rod and reel. And at that point, we'll have a rod and reel, we'll have line, we'll have hooks, weights, all the lures that we need. And then all you gotta do is buy your fishing license. Now the line options can be awfully intimidating as well. It doesn't have to be. Now you got a spinning rod and reel, so I think that you need a little bit lighter line. There's a bunch of different ways to use line on a rod and reel. I like to have braided line and then a fluorocarbon leader. Tying that leader though is definitely on the advanced spectrum. I mean, there's a ton of videos that you can watch and I can show you the way that I do it, but we got to pick out our line. Now this big game fluorocarbon right here, about 9 bucks. I've never used it, but I don't see why it won't work. The line that I use is a little bit more expensive. I want to keep it on the budget friendly scale, so I feel like this would be a great line. The only other thing we got to grab is our weights. If you know you're going to want a ton of weights, Ozark Trail's got you covered for about 8 bucks, but you can definitely save some money going with the Laser Sharp Pro Series. These are a 1/4 ounce. Doesn't really matter what size you go with. I would keep it in between a 1/4 and 3/8. But yeah, that's simple. That's literally all you're gonna need to go out and catch your first bass. If this does inspire you to get out and go fishing for a day and catch your first bass, even if you don't catch your first bass, make an Instagram post, tag me in it. Let's grow our Instagrams together. Well, sweet. I believe we've got everything that we need. Time to get checked out and head out to the water. Okay, well, we have made it out to the lake. So we're gonna do a little bit of bank fishing today. Let me show you what all we got from the store. All of this gear right here came in right around $80, left us just enough money to be able to buy our permit pass for the day to be out here on the local lake. So I told you guys in the store, this right here is what I was most excited about, because it came with 3 different things that you need: your curly tail worms, your lizards, and your stick baits, which is very important. It also came with a few hooks, so I also had to buy some weights. That way we'll be geared up to throw a Texas rig. We also got 2 different kind of lures. That way you can try a little bit of everything, you know, fish a worm, fish a lure. You're just starting out, so why not try it all? I went ahead and put the line on the reel. That can be a little bit tricky. There's a few things you want to remember. Let me show you. So whenever you're tying line on a new reel, what you have to remember, flip this open, then tie your line, because if you don't, and you leave it closed and you tie your line, you'll be reeling and nothing will be happening. So just make sure you flip that open, then tie your line. Once it's tied and you clip that little end, flip it back over, reel all your line on, you're good to go. Now it's just time to tie on. Let's crack this baby open and see what all is inside. So this here is gonna be your lizard. What's awesome about this bait is the tail and the feet are gonna move with any kind of movement of the bait. So as soon as you start reeling that bait in, your bait's kind of moving around in the water like a fish. Entices a bite without you really even having to do anything. Super easy bait to fish. But I bought the weights because you want to throw it on a Texas rig. I think this is what I'm going to start throwing first. So I'm going to set it to the side. These baits right here, super important. This is probably the #1 bass fishing beginner bait, as well as advanced bass fisherman bait, the stick bait. I like the Gary Yamamoto Senko brand. They're a little bit more expensive though, so for the sake of the video, we bought the Yum brand. These would be the Davy Gravy Special, the Yum Dinger. That man will throw a Yum Dinger. What's cool about this kit is you got maybe watermelon red flake or either green pumpkin red flake. I think that's watermelon red flake. But you've also got the June bug as well as a smaller version. This is gonna be the 4-inch watermelon black flake. You've also got a nice little finesse worm. I think that's cool. These things would be kind of known as a trick worm. Not necessarily a trick worm, but kind of like a trick worm. These things are going to be Texas rigged as well. You can throw them weightless. It's just a little bit easier to get it out there with a little bit of weight on there, and I'll show you that later. And then the curly tail worm. This thing's going to be exactly like the lizard. As you're reeling it, this curly tail's curling, you know what I mean? And as it's curling, them fish are thinking, I'm starving. Pretty easy bait to throw. Great for a beginner. Now let's talk about the fun stuff. We purchased a Chatterbait as well as a square bill crankbait. Basically, both of these baits, you just throw them out and reel them in. They're both gonna look like a bait fish. And I mean, hey, that's what them fish are eating. Fish eat fish. People eat fish. Who ain't eating a fish? You know what I'm saying? Just throw fish. I just think that's a great looking crankbait. So these are known as square bill crankbaits. You know why? You guessed it. That bill's square as it can be. This one's not gonna dive very deep. This one dives about 2 to 4 foot. So if you're like me today and you're fishing from the bank, keep that in mind. If you buy a crankbait like this and the bill is super long, that thing's gonna dive deeper. The longer the bill, the deeper this bait dives. Nice little thing to remember. So if you're fishing from the bank, just be sure and get one that's a little bit smaller. It's gonna keep it a little easy on you. Maybe not get hung up as much. I'm gonna throw that in our box. And the Chatterbait. Nice big hook. That skirt material, it's gonna be kind of waving through the water like a princess in a parade. This thing's gonna be making some movement. One thing that I do like to do is put a trailer on this thing. By trailer, I'm talking about a paddle tail swim bait. I'll cut the head off of it and I'll feed that paddle tail swim bait onto this thing and it'll be hanging off the back like a fish. I'll show you in a little while. Sweet, well I got a nice little box. Got my 2 lures we bought right here. Got everything in here that we need to be a beginner bass fisherman. Oh, except our weights. So we're gonna take our weights. I'm just gonna throw those. Nice. All right, so for a Texas rig, you are going to need a hook, a bullet weight, and a bait. All right, so step number 1, take your weight, feed your line through it with the top part pointing towards your rod. This is the most simple, best knot that I know. All right, so basically our line is doubled and through our eye, simple, tie your shoe knot, right? And then what you've created is a loop right here. You want to take your hook and pass it back through that loop and then pull it tight. Make sure it's tight. Then you've just got to get rid of this tag line. I like to leave it about that long, actually a little bit shorter than that. It won't really matter. I'll show you why. When we feed our lizard on here, so our hook is gonna go in the lizard and come out of the bottom of the head. You wanna go in about 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch. Then you wanna pull that hook until your lizard, see that? We just covered our line. Then this hook's gonna be exposed and you just wanna take it, hook it right into the body of that lizard. And that will be your Texas rig lizard. Now for the fun part, all you gotta do is catch one. Actually, you gotta clean up your trash. You know what I like to do? I even clean up other people's trash. All right, time to start fishing. So this right here is gonna be known as your drag. You wanna tighten this thing on the top until you can barely pull line out. If it's too loose and you set the hook, you won't get a good hook set. You'll end up losing your fish, and that's the last thing you want. Find a nice little spot to make a cast. So with this bait, you just wanna let it hit the bottom, and then you want to bump it along the bottom. Oh, I got a fish on. Oh, we got one. Fish on. Feels like a pretty good one. Oh no, he's trying to get over there to the brush. Don't do it. Oh no, I think he's gonna get me wrapped up. Come on. That's a nice one. All right, so you see what we got going on. I got some brush right there. We're just gonna take it easy. Try not to pop our line. Okay, we got it off. Never reel all the way down. Leave about this much line out and then pull your fish. Uh-oh, that one's got some weight on her. Then pull your fish out of the lake. Golly, how about that? That was on the first cast. That is awesome. Nice, pretty largemouth on our lizard. Guys, that's what I'm saying. It's not that hard to get out there and go have an awesome day of fishing. And we're doing it for less than $100. That's rod, reel, tackle, everything. Even your permit to come out here to a public lake and fish. And to be able to catch them like that, it just scratches an itch you didn't even know you had. Very expensive hobby. You got to be careful with this thing. Pretty, pretty fish. Sweet. Well, that is awesome. We're gonna get a release on the old girl and see if she won't grow to be a 10-pounder one day. Appreciate you playing the old game, girl. You're going the wrong way. There she goes. Well, how about that? First fish on the first cast, you literally can't ask for anything better than that. Now, it is known as bad luck in the fishing industry to catch one on the first cast. We'll test that out today and see. So this is what you're gonna be left with after you catch one. You never wanna make a cast like that. You wanna feed that lizard back up to where it's supposed to be, and then you wanna make sure that hook's not completely exposed. Otherwise, you're just gonna get hung up on everything on the bottom. Well, let's see if we can catch another one. What's awesome about this location I'm at today is there's all kind of brush in the water. All these white pipes you're seeing, that's where brush has been sunk along with root balls and tree limbs. Basically anything that a fish will get around has been sunk around the banks of this lake. So super cool place to have within driving distance. Now here's another thing. That lizard right there, got a little grass on it. Always make sure your bait's nice and clean. It's just gonna make sure that fish wants a piece of it. Throw out there where we caught that first one and see what's happening. So what I'm doing right now is letting my bait sit on the bottom very still. More times than not, a fish sees your bait on a cast. A lot of times if you're moving it too fast, they just don't want a piece of it. They know that it's fake. So if you'll just ease it along the bottom, and then whenever you think you have a fish on, just barely pick your line up until it's tight. You don't want it so tight that fish knows there's somebody on the other end of the line, but you just want to see if you can feel movement. If you feel movement, then it's a fish, set the hook. If you don't feel movement, chances are you don't have a fish on, and you don't want to set the hook for no reason. You'll end up losing a lot of tackle. And this tackle can be costly in this game. I see one piece of brush all alone out there, a little isolated piece of cover. I'm gonna throw out there and see if it's got a fish around it. So far, nothing on the end of that point. All right, I'm gonna make another cast out there right in the middle of that brush pile. Now we're kind of taking a chance. Anytime you throw your bait directly into a big pile of brush, you're taking a huge risk, but high risk, high reward. That's where those fish are gonna be most of the time. You just wanna make sure that hook is not exposed, because if you throw into some brush and you got an exposed hook, chances are you're gonna lose that bait. Uh-oh, I got a fish on. I got a fish on. So when you have one on, you wanna reel down till your line gets tight and you wanna snatch it. There you go. That's how you get a really good hook set on that fish. Oh, this is so much fun, guys. I'm telling you, if you've never been fishing, go out to the water. It'll be some of the most fun that you've ever had whenever you catch your first bass, or any fish for that matter. This looks like another nice one. Not quite as big as that first one, but a pretty one nonetheless. That one right there is probably gonna be about 2 pounds. That other one was probably 3 pounds. This fish is probably a year younger than that last one. Still a pretty fish, and it is obvious that they will eat the lizard. I'm gonna get this girl back and we're gonna tie something different on and just show you another technique. She gone. I think next I'm gonna go with one of these little finesse worms. Same thing though, go in the top of that worm, come out of the bottom after you go in about 1/4 of an inch. You're gonna feed that worm all the way up to the tip of that hook, and then you take your hook, pass it back through the center of that worm. That way it's not exposed. You're not gonna have to worry about getting hung up. And then you got a nice little finesse rig. All right, so I've given this brush pile in front of me about 5 minutes. I'm gonna make another cast right in the center of it. Hopefully we won't lose our bait. So this worm here, you want it to do the exact same thing. Fall all the way to the bottom. Now this worm, it's just a straight worm. No curly tail, no legs coming off and flapping in the water. So you're gonna have to work this worm a little bit more than you do a lizard. Instead of just dragging it across the bottom, you really need to be bumping it, but you don't want it to move, you know, 6 inches to a foot every time you bump it. You kind of want it to stay in the exact same spot. That's just going to entice that bite. So right there, I feel that I have grass on it, so I'm going to give it a quick hard bump. That'll clear it off,
And a lot of times that's when you'll get a reaction bite. Those fish, whenever they see something jump really quick, if a bass is around it, a lot of times they'll come over there and eat it then. Another technique would be reeling it, bumping it, reeling it, bumping it. Reel it about 5 foot and then just kill it. Let it stop, let it sink to the bottom, let it sit still for, 5 seconds or so before you start bumping it again. So right here in front of me, there's a ton of brush backed up into this pocket, but there's a little bit of a clearing right here. And I'm gonna fish the outside edge of that and just see if there's a fish feeding on the outside of all that brush. Uh-oh, I think I just got a bite. I got one on right now. Oh, I lost him. I feel like he may have been kind of small because it was just tap, 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 tap. When those little ones bite it, it feels like a machine gun just tapping it, tapping it, tapping it. But when a big one gets it, you feel one hard thump, and then it just feels kind of spongy. Uh-oh, I just got a bite. There we go, fish on. Let's go. Well, I got that bite 3 different times before I finally got a hook set in her. She's just a little girl. Not big, she's a little one, but still fun to catch. Well worth the $100 to get out there on the water and go catch fish. Heck yeah, 3 fish pretty quick. Nothing wrong with that at all. I'm about to hop in the truck though. We're gonna drive around, find a new location. The spot that we're fishing is a giant lake. It's got multiple different areas for you to bank fish as well as fish from the boat. We're just gonna keep it moving. Try to go find a different area, and I'm probably gonna tie on one of the lures that we bought and show you guys how to catch one on those. Let's do it. Cool little spot, man. Nice little playground for the kiddos. Got the swings behind me. If the fish stop biting, I'm definitely coming to swing. All right, so from what I just saw, I don't know that we're gonna find a terrible spot to fish. So we're just gonna keep our eyes peeled. I'm gonna ride around for a second and see if I find something that looks a little bit fishy. Anytime you're bass fishing, look for structure in the water, whether it be a tree that's laid down, or brush that you see out in the water, or somebody accidentally sunk their boat, you name it. If there's something in the water, there's gonna be a fish around it. You just gotta make them bite, and that's the fun part. All right, I found another little spot to stop. Somebody's out here with a nice Toyota kayak angler. I mean, hey, my man's got a sweet ride. And we have a sweet lake right here in front of us, about to catch another one. They seem to be biting this morning pretty good, so I don't see why we can't whack another one. Look at here, even got a nice little picnic table. Right now, it's gonna be our tackle operation table. So yeah, there's our hook and our worm and our weight that we just used. Didn't lose anything, that's awesome. I'll come back later and trim all these tag lines off. Next up, we're gonna throw the square bill. I'm gonna show you just how easy this bait is to fish. You do stand more of a risk of getting it hung up, which is not fun, but it does have treble hooks, so you should be able to catch a fish a little bit easier. You're gonna tie this bait on the exact same way. Nice little knot, pass your bait right back through your loop, pull it tight, just like that. Take that tag line off and you're good to go. All right, so right here in front of me, there's a big pile of Christmas trees. I think they probably have presents under them. Let's just see. All right, first cast with our crankbait, our square bill crankbait. So this is gonna be the struggle to throw in this kind of bait. It's highly rewarding, but you also are gonna come up with a lot of grass. So every time you're gonna have to get all your grass off. Make sure your bait is clean. I'm gonna see if I can throw behind that brush pile. Oh, that looks like a juicy cast. Now this bait here, as soon as you feel your bite, be ready to set the hook. And what I mean by set the hook is just put a lot of pressure on it. Snatch that thing. That way those hooks actually catch your fish. Well, check this out. Nice little standing dock. Come on. Be able to get my bait out just a little bit farther. Kind of curious to see how far away from the bank are they going to be in this spot, because there's a lot of brush out there where I can't quite reach. We've also got a lot of stick-ups and such right here in front of us, so no reason why a fish wouldn't be right here around us. I'm just gonna go right there. Oh no, I made a bad cast. I might get that hung up, maybe not. Might get it hung in a fish's mouth. Can't ever tell. But that is the goal. Make some casts in a different location, see if we can entice a bite. So far, no luck on our square bill. Oh, there's a fish. Let's go. I saw that happen. That was so crazy. I saw that fish come up and flash on it. I was watching my bait right here at the bank. Let's go. That's another nice one, man. Come on, baby, please don't get off. She's only got one hook in her. I'm trying to be really easy, not pull her off. Let's go. Goodness gracious, right here on a nice bench to just sit down and tell you guys about this nice fish I just caught. Let's go on the square bill. So I told you I came up and saw her flash at it. She barely got it in her gill right there. But another nice one nonetheless. Just like that. I am gonna go ahead and tie the chatterbait on. I would like for you guys to be able to at least see that. I know a lot of you that are watching have already thrown a chatterbait. You're very experienced fishermen, but a lot of people aren't. So I want to teach you this technique because it's highly effective. Chatterbait's tied on and you can definitely catch one the way that it sits, but let me show you something that's going to help you get a whole lot more bites. So this bait right here is just a paddle tail swim bait. There's a ton of different companies that make this kind of bait. What we're going to do is pinch off the head of that bait. We're only going to be focused on this little paddle tail. What we're going to do is feed this bait on the end of our hook, and when we're done, it's going to look much more like an actual fish presentation. Just like that. Now we've got a paddle tail on the back of it. It's actually going to swim like a fish as this bait's coming through the water. All right, I'm on the move again, on to a new location. I just felt like it took a lot of casts before I finally got a bite on that crankbait. So here we go. Just like that. So I've made it to the dam. I'm on the complete opposite end of this giant lake. A lot of times the dam is where you're gonna find some bigger fish. Not always. I mean, in reality, the dam's just got a little bit deeper water. And for some reason in my mind, I like fishing at the dam. So we're gonna make some casts right here. Hopefully find another big one. No big deal if we don't, because that Senko is gonna get it done. I've saved the Senko for last. I wonder if there's anything out there beside that. For some reason, I feel like if I get a bite right here on the dam, it's gonna be right here at the bank before the lure comes out of the water. Somewhere like right here. Made a few casts with no luck, but I do see a tree that's been cut down right here. And that's what I was talking about earlier, guys. These trees are gonna be perfect structure for a fish, but the problem is we might lose our bait. It is a risk I'm willing to take. That tree is wild. I guess it split a long time ago and then kept growing after it was already in the water. But I will say, let this tree be inspiration. Whenever you fall down, never give up. Look at that pretty tree growing out of the top. All right, sorry, a little inspirational quote for you guys. This looks mighty fishy. Nothing. What about right there? Oh, I had one bite. He didn't eat it really good. Get right back in there and see if he'll eat it again. I'm gonna slow it down just a little bit. Right there's where he bit it. He may have got a taste of that metal hook. Oh, God almighty. God, he took my tail. Well, I'll leave it on there, but that's the third time that fish is bit right there. But now I don't have the trailer, so we're gonna see if you can get a bite without that trailer. Try to prove myself wrong. There he is. Let's go. It don't matter about that paddle tail. Let's go. Nice one. Well, that is not bad at all. On the chatterbait, this fish bit like 4 different times, but persistence paid off. Right before I caught her, she bit the tail off of my chatterbait, and then she ended up biting it just like that. So hey, you catch a fish on a chatterbait without a paddle tail, I just think it helps. Let's go. Pretty fish. Well, let's go. The chatterbait gets it done. I would be lying if I told you that I wasn't excited to be done throwing the chatterbait. Nothing against the old girl. She's a great lure, highly productive. But I'm excited to throw the Senko. The Senko is gonna get it done day in and day out, every day. And you can do so many different things with it. You can wacky rig it. You can Texas rig it. You can Carolina rig it. You can throw it without a weight, weightless rig it. You can just rig that thing, man. Now the time of year is what's gonna depend on when you want to throw what. So if you're gonna wacky rig your Senko or your Yum Dinger, you really wanna do that closer to the springtime, which now's a great time to do it. We're early spring right now. In the wintertime, Texas rig it, Carolina rig it, you know, do something a little bit different, get it down there close to the bottom. And in the springtime, that's when you want to throw your wacky rig as well as your weightless rig. And I'm about to tie it on. We'll see what happens. All right, I have decided to go with a weightless rig. This is just a regular hook. Same thing though, in about a quarter, out, pull to the top like that, and then hook right back in your bait. And I'm excited because this bait gets it done. All right, well, we are walking up on a point right here, and it looks really good. It's got brush all the way out, and it goes out probably 25 yards right there. Tons of brush right here. I could definitely see me losing a Senko, but I am willing to risk it. All right, I've made it as far as I can be. Uh-oh, there's a fish. Fish on! Fish on! Oh man, that's a good one. Let's go on this Senko. Go on. Let's go. The Senko gets it done every single time. Right in the top of the mouth like it's supposed to be. That hurt. Well, let's go, baby. What number fish is this? Is this fish number 5? Another nice, pretty largemouth. Oh. They just like to come back to me. There we go. She made it out. Not to mention $100 worth of fishing tackle gets it done as well. I went into Walmart to grab this combo. You can go grab this type combo as well as, you know, some of the same type stuff that I bought. You can buy that from pretty much anywhere. Academy, Dick's, you name it. Most any outdoor store is gonna have your basics, and you definitely don't have to spend over $100 to have an awesome day of fishing. Kind of a cool feeling whenever you know that you didn't break the bank and still got to go out and have a lot of fun. I'm excited about that, man. I'm also excited about the springtime coming up. Fish are starting to bite. The last few weeks have been pretty rough on me and old cameraman Chris. We've just spent a lot of time fishing and not a lot of time catching. Kind of makes it tough to film videos like this. So, hey, I hope this video encourages one of you that doesn't necessarily fish to go out and try it. I think you'll love it. Fishing's good for the soul, man. And for all the rest of you, save me a fish or two. As always, I appreciate you guys for tuning in. Trying to get to 100,000 subs. Been trying for about 2 years now. I really want that YouTube plaque. I'm ready for the day that I get to post an Instagram photo of me holding that plaque. Speaking of Instagram, get with me on Instagram. If you go out for a day of fishing, tag me in your fish catch. Let me see what you guys have caught. And if you're not following my Instagram account yet, please do that. I'm trying to grow that as well. Appreciate you guys. Peace.